She sat quietly at the hearing until they called her Codename. "And what exactly is your function here, miss? I'm sorry, I don't see a rank on that collar. Are you the stenographer? Or did someone's assistant wander into the wrong room?" The words cut through the hearing chamber like a blade scraping metal. Senator Hargrove Tully does not wait for an answer. He does not need one. He is 61 years old, a former JAG officer, a man who has sat on the Armed Services Committee for 11 years. And he has a particular gift, honed over decades, for identifying who belongs in a room and who is a mistake. The woman at the far end of the table is a mistake. He can see that from where he's standing. Plain charcoal blazer, no insignia, no ribbons, a regulation bun so severe it pulls at the corners of her eyes. She's 31, maybe 32, the kind of age where a person has either arrived somewhere or hasn't. And this woman, this quiet, still, entirely unremarkable woman, does not look like she has arrived anywhere. She does not answer him. She's looking at a document, not reading it exactly. Something quieter than reading. Processing, the kind of absorption that goes beyond comprehension into something that looks more like memorization. Her hands are flat on the table on either side of the page. She breathes. 4 counts in, holds 4, 4 counts out, holds 4. Her face doesn't change. The chamber smells of old wood and carpet cleaner and the faint, institutional ghost of 1,000 previous proceedings. Morning light comes through the high windows on the eastern wall at a specific angle. Sharp, federal, the kind of light that makes everything look like evidence. The room holds 47 people. Senators along the raised dais, staff members at the perimeter, legal teams at the side tables, Pentagon liaisons standing near the double doors at the back. 47 people, and every last one of them just heard what Senator Tully said to the woman at the end of the table. She still hasn't answered. "I asked you a question," Tully says. "I heard you," she says. 3 words. Quiet as a signal through a dead channel. Not hostile, not deferential, just precise. Tully's mouth tightens. Behind him, his aide, a young man named Carver, 26, perpetually overcommitted, writes something on his notepad and underlines it twice. 3 seats to Senator Tully's left. Senator Diane Wentworth is watching. She has not moved. She has been watching the woman at the end of the table since the woman walked in 12 minutes ago, and Diane Wentworth has been on this committee for 9 years, and she has learned to watch for the thing that almost everyone else misses, which is this: how a person sits still. Most people in high-pressure environments fidget. They arrange papers. They touch their phones. They glance at whoever is speaking. They perform their own calm. This woman is not performing. She simply is. There is a difference between those 2 things, and it is not visible to everyone in the room. It is visible to one other person. Retired Master Chief Warren Kessler is 63 years old, 37 years of Navy service, the last 8 of which were in roles he is not allowed to discuss at any dinner party, in any jurisdiction, for any reason. He sits along the far wall in an observer's chair, gray suit, no tie, a coffee cup he has not touched. And he's been very, very still since the woman walked in. Not still the way bureaucrats get still when they are bored. Still the way men get still when they recognize something they didn't expect. He is watching her hands. She holds the document with a specific tension in her fingers. A tension that is not quite reading and not quite ready. The spacing between her index finger and her middle finger on her right hand. The way her thumb sits against the edge of the page at precisely the angle that keeps the page stable without crumpling it. It is the grip of someone who has held things in bad conditions. Someone trained for scenarios where documents get wet, or the light goes out, or both hands can't be used. Kessler's coffee goes cold beside him. He doesn't notice. Tully is still waiting, He glances at the room, 47 witnesses, all watching, and he makes a decision that he will come to regret in ways he currently cannot imagine. We'll start without whoever this is supposed to be. He says to the room, "I have 14 questions for General Marsh, and I don't intend to spend my morning on clerical confusion." The woman at the end of the table turns one page, sets it aside, picks up the next one. She does not look up. Her watch reads 09:07:43. She notes it without moving her eyes. There's a column in the document she is reading that contains 4 names she already knows, 2 she suspected, and one that surprises her in a way she does not let reach her face. She breathes. 4 in. Hold 4. 4 out. Hold 4. She has been in the city for 9 days. She will be done in 90 minutes. The first session break comes at 10:15. 43 of the 47 people in the chamber stand up, stretch, check their phones, step outside. The woman at the end of the table stays seated. She drinks from a water glass. She reads. Tully is in the hallway with Carver. He wants coffee. He wants to know why a woman with no visible credentials was given a seat at that table. He wants an answer by the time the session resumes. Carver finds out. He comes back in 6 minutes with a face that is not entirely legible. He checks his notepad. The placement came from the office of the Director of National Intelligence. That's all I have. No name on the seating order, just a designation. What designation? Carver looks at his notepad. Ren 7. Tully doesn't know that name. That is not by itself unusual. There are designations he doesn't know. The committee doesn't have access to everything. But he doesn't like not knowing. And he doesn't like the way that aide's face went when he said it. And he doesn't like the woman at the end of the table who has been reading documents without looking up for the entire first session. What he does next is a mistake, but he doesn't know that yet. He leans to Senator Callaway on his right. Callaway, who ran the Appropriations Subcommittee for 6 years and has never in his career encountered a room he couldn't read, and says something quietly. And Callaway glances at the woman at the end of the table and makes the same assessment Tully made when she walked in. Plain blazer. No insignia. Wrong room. Callaway nods and leans to the man next to him. By the time the break ends, every member of the dais knows the word Ren 7, and not one of them knows what it means. And in that gap between name and knowledge, all 11 of them have made the same comfortable assumption. That whatever it is not important. That assumption moves through the room the way bad assumptions do, invisibly, warmly, with perfect confidence. Kessler, along the far wall, hears approximately none of this and reads all of it. He has been in these rooms. He has watched the specific mechanics of how powerful men decide something is beneath them, and how that decision functions as a kind of blindness. A very expensive, very well-dressed blindness that costs the same every time. He watches Tully go back to his seat. He watches the woman at the end of the table turn another page. He watches the way her wrist settles on the table's edge and sees again the mark he clocked earlier. And he is aware, with the precision of a man who has spent his life being precise, that he is looking at something he does not yet fully understand, but that he is quite certain the senator does not understand at all. He picks up his cold coffee. He sets it down. His pen has stopped moving. He goes back in when the break ends, and he starts the second session by addressing her directly. Ren 7, he says, because he's worked in government long enough to know that designations often mean less than they appear to. I'd like to know what your interest is in today's proceedings. The chamber goes a little quiet. Not totally. But the low murmur of resumed side conversations dips. She looks up. It's the first time she's looked directly at him, and Tully finds, for just a fraction of a second, that he doesn't entirely know what to do with it. Her eyes are dark and utterly unhurried, the kind of eyes that suggest she has been in worse rooms than this. Observation, she says. Observation of what, specifically? The testimony. She pauses, not theatrically, just a pause. And the committee. There's a sound from somewhere in the room. Not a laugh, exactly. The aspirational cousin of a laugh, quickly swallowed. Senator Tully's face does something complicated. I don't know who authorized your placement at that table, he says. But I can tell you that this committee has the authority to request verification of identity and clearance level from anyone present in this chamber. Yes, she says. You do? Then I'm requesting it. Understood. She reaches into the inside pocket of her blazer and places a credential wallet on the table. She does not slide it across. She does not hand it to anyone. She simply places it there, in front of her, and returns to her documents. Tully sends Carver to retrieve it. Carver walks the length of the table. He picks up the credential wallet. He opens it. He stands for a moment that becomes too long. Carver, Tully says. Carver comes back. He hands the wallet to Tully without speaking. His face has done the thing it did in the hallway, except more so. Tully looks at the credentials. His expression doesn't change visibly, but something moves through him. A tightening, a recalibration of something. He closes the wallet. He sets it on the edge of the dais. He picks up his water and drinks from it. We'll continue with General Marsh's testimony, he says. He does not return her credentials. Kessler, along the far wall, watches this exchange with the specific quality of attention that 37 years had built into him. The kind of attention that doesn't announce itself. He'd seen the credential wallet from where he sat, couldn't read it at this distance, but he saw Carver's face when he opened it, and he saw Tully's face when he looked at what was inside. And he's been doing this long enough to read those faces the way other people read words. Something is very wrong. Not wrong the way a procedural error is wrong. Wrong the way a classified operation is wrong when it's been stumbled into by the wrong people at the wrong time. He watches her. She has, at some point in the last 20 minutes, quietly reorganized the documents in front of her. He didn't see her do it. That is notable. She moved paper in a room full of federal officials and career security personnel, and not one of them noticed. It's the kind of muscle memory that doesn't come from a manual. The kind of movement training that teaches you to act invisibly in plain sight. A discipline that is not taught in any regular military school and is not listed in any curriculum he has ever seen printed on official letterhead. She input something into the session laptop at 10:44. He watched from across the room, from this angle, in this light. And she entered a 14-character authentication string in under 8 seconds. He knows because he counted. He has seen senior intelligence staff take 4 minutes to enter the same kind of string using both hands, checking a printed key. She used one hand and didn't look at the keyboard. Her sleeve has ridden up slightly at her left wrist, just past the edge of her blazer cuff. There is a mark there. Not an accident. Not a scar in the conventional sense. Ink and something that isn't quite ink. The kind of mark that gets made in environments where tattoo parlors are not available. But the need for a mark is real, and the materials at hand are not ideal. He knows what that kind of mark means. He knows what the shape of it is, though he can't read the specifics from here. He knows what unit uses that mark. His pen stops moving. There are 6 names he has carried for 7 years. 6 names in a classified inquiry that was opened, investigated, and shelved before it could be completed. because 3 of the witnesses who might have testified about what happened in a particular valley, in a particular country, in a particular year, had a remarkable tendency to be reassigned before they could appear before any committee. He had submitted the inquiry himself. He had been told it was a resource issue. He had believed that for approximately 4 months before he stopped believing anything about it. He looks at the credential wallet, sitting on Senator Tully's side of the dais. He looks at the woman. She turns a page. The second session break comes at 11:30. The testimony of General Marsh has been, in the polite language of official proceedings, illuminating. In the less polite language that Kessler is running through his head as people stand and stretch, it has been a performance. Marsh is a skilled performer. He's been performing in rooms like this for 22 years. He watched the woman at the end of the table during Marsh's testimony. She didn't write much. She watched Marsh with those dark, unhurried eyes, and she wrote 3 words on her notepad and underlined one of them. Kessler couldn't read what the word was. He didn't need to. He recognized the way she listened, the way she tracked a speaker who was careful about the things he didn't say, the way she let silences extend past the moment they were comfortable, watching what a person's face does in the gap after they've finished a prepared answer and before they've decided what to say next. He'd learned that skill in one particular place, under one particular instructor. And that instructor was 30 years retired, and this woman was approximately the age that would make her a second-generation product of the same school. Not a bureaucrat, not a liaison, not a stenographer. During the break, he watches Tully's aide make 3 phone calls in rapid succession, visible through the glass panel of a side corridor. The calls are short. Tully is standing nearby, watching Carver's face during each call. The 4th call lasts longer. When Carver hangs up and turns to Tully, something passes between them that Kessler has seen before. The particular communication of men who have just realized a situation is more serious than they initially assessed. Tully goes back to his seat when the break ends. He still has her credentials. At 11:47, during a recess called because Senator Wentworth has raised a procedural objection about document classification, Tully leans toward his aide. "I want her credentials held for verification review," he says, quietly enough that it's clearly intended to be private. Kessler, from his chair along the wall, catches approximately 2/3 of it. Until we know what exactly Ren 7 is, she doesn't leave this building. The aide nods. At 11:52, 2 Capitol security officers position themselves near the chamber doors. At 11:53, the woman at the end of the table turns the last page of her document, stacks it neatly, and folds her hands in front of her. She closes her eyes for exactly 4 counts, opens them. Her watch reads 11:53:17. "This is a standard credential verification hold," the Capitol security officer says. He is young. He is following instructions. He is not unkind, but he is firm. "We need you to come with us while the clearance documentation is processed." They are in a side room off the main corridor. Not a detention cell, not anything so dramatic. A conference room with beige carpet and a round table and 4 chairs and a window that shows a pale November sky over the Capitol dome. The kind of room that is used for routine administrative purposes, because that is how the senator's office intends this to be characterized. The woman sits down. She places her hands on the table. She looks at the window. "Someone should have noted," she says, "that retaining the credentials of a Wren-designated officer without documentation of the request is a federal offense under the Intelligence Identities Protection Act." She pauses. "I'm not saying that as a threat. I'm saying it so that when the relevant documentation is reviewed later, everyone will know I mentioned it." The security officer looks at the other security officer. We'll have someone from the committee counsel's office come speak with you, the first officer says. He leaves. The second stays by the door, not quite blocking it, but not quite not blocking it. The woman looks at the window. This is the part where it could go wrong. She knows this. Anyone watching from the outside, anyone who could see the credential wallet in Senator Tully's desk drawer and the two officers in the closed door, would think she's finished. Caught in an institutional grip she didn't see coming. A quiet woman in a charcoal blazer in a beige conference room, waiting for a committee counsel to tell her she's been formally detained pending verification. Games have rules. She's about to show them they've been playing the wrong game. Her watch reads 12:14:08. In 16 minutes, a check-in protocol she established 9 days ago will not receive its scheduled confirmation signal. In 31 minutes, the absence of that signal activates a standing notification to a deputy director whose office is 4 blocks from this building. In approximately 78 minutes, accounting for the deputy director's current schedule, which she reviewed this morning, 3 things will happen in sequence, and each one will be worse than the last for the people who decided to put her in this room. She breathes. 4 in, hold 4, 4 out, hold 4. Her left sleeve has ridden up slightly again. The mark on her wrist is visible in the window light. She doesn't cover it. She has been this patient before. She will be this patient again. Kessler is in the hallway when the committee counsel's assistant, a young woman named Priya, visibly stressed, comes to consult her supervisor. He hears enough. Credential hold. Side conference room. Ren 7. He stands with his coffee cup, which is new and also cold, and he thinks for 30 seconds. He makes a decision. He walks to the security station at the end of the corridor, shows his own identification, retired, but the specific retired that comes with a laminated card that makes security personnel go slightly careful, and asks, politely, to speak with the officer managing the credential hold on the WREN 7 detainee. The officer who managed it is the younger one. He comes over with the specific posture of someone who is not certain they did anything wrong, but is beginning to suspect they might have. How long ago was the hold initiated? Kessler asks. About 20 minutes. Did you run the WREN classification through the standard verification channel? Senator Tully's office is handling the verification request. Kessler nods slowly. WREN designations don't verify through a senator's office, he says pleasantly. They verify through the Defense Intelligence Agency, specifically through the Special Programs Division. Your system will know this if you query it. He pauses. I'd do that before someone from DIA arrives in person and asks why a credential hold was initiated without proper channel verification. The officer looks at his screen. He types something. He reads something. His face changes. I'll need to speak with the building supervisor, he says. Probably wise, Kessler says. The door to the beige conference room opens at 12:38. Not the committee counsel, not a security officer. 4 people in civilian clothes, the kind of civilian clothes that suggests military dress underneath, walking with the kind of purpose that means this is not a social visit. Behind them, barely visible from the doorway, 2 additional figures. One in the dress uniform of a vice admiral, one in the suit and lanyard of a DIA deputy director. Senator Tully is also in the corridor. He arrived 3 minutes ago, summoned by Carver, who was summoned by the building supervisor, who was in a phone call that lasted 4 minutes and ended with his hands shaking slightly. The woman at the beige conference table looks at the door. She does not stand. She does not smile. She does not do anything except look at the people in the doorway with those dark, unhurried eyes. and wait. The DIA deputy director steps forward. "Senator Tully," he says, without looking at the senator. He is looking at her. "Your committee's credential hold on this officer is being rescinded." Tully opens his mouth. "It was initiated without proper channel verification." The deputy director continues, still not looking at him. "Which means it was not a valid federal hold and should not have been treated as one. My committee has authority to..." "Your committee has authority outlined in Title 50 and Title 10, the deputy director says. He pauses, not for effect, for precision. "It does not include the authority to detain a WREN-designated officer without DIA notification, which is also a provision of the Intelligence Identities Protection Act, as I'm told she already mentioned to your security personnel." The corridor is very quiet. The vice admiral steps past the deputy director. He walks to the table. He is perhaps 58, silver at his temples, the kind of bearing that suggests he has been in every version of bad room that exists and has opinions about none of them. He looks at the mark on her wrist. He goes very still. Not the way officials go still when they are calculating. The way men go still when they recognize something they were told no longer existed. Something that was officially listed as no longer operational. Something that they had filed and closed and moved on from. And that is now sitting in a beige conference room in the Capitol complex in a charcoal blazer with a credential wallet taken by a senator who had no authority to take it. His hand moves, not involuntarily, but quickly. His right hand comes up in the specific, clean, formal arc of a full salute. Not abbreviated, not performative. The kind of salute that means the saluter knows exactly what they are looking at and is responding with the only appropriate response available to him. A tablet drops somewhere in the corridor behind him. The clatter echoes off the marble like a shot in the sudden silence. The AC hum, previously invisible, becomes deafening. A boot scuffs tile. Someone's badge lanyard taps against the doorframe. Someone in the corridor makes a sound. Not quite a gasp. The aspirational cousin of a gasp, quickly inhaled. And then a second sound. A chair scraping back. Two of the DIA personnel coming to attention without being told, their hands moving to their sides with a snap that is entirely involuntary and entirely correct. "Commander," the vice admiral says. She stands now. She returns the salute. She does it with the precision of someone who has done it thousands of times in rooms much more difficult than this one, and in a few rooms considerably easier, which she does not think about, because that is not the point of any of this. "Admiral Harcourt," she says, "we have the credential wallet." An aide steps forward and places it on the table in front of her. She picks it up. She puts it in her inside pocket. She does this without looking at Senator Tully, who is standing in the doorway of the room that was meant to hold her and has succeeded at nothing. His face is cycling through something that does not have a name. Not shock exactly, not denial exactly. The particular expression of a man who has just understood, all at once, every mistake he made over the course of the last 3 hours, and is experiencing the total weight of those mistakes landing simultaneously. He goes quiet, not theatrical, quiet, which is worse. "I need 10 minutes to complete my review of the committee documents," she says. "Then I'll need access to the testimony record from this morning's session." Arranged. The vice admiral looks at the doorway, at Tully, at the corridor full of people standing in the specific stillness of people who are trying very hard not to look like they've just been demolished. Anything else needed from the committee's resources? One thing. She picks up her notepad from the table. She reads the words she underlined during Marsh's testimony. I'll need Senator Tully's office to produce all internal communications related to the scheduling of General Marsh's testimony before this committee, specifically communications with the Armed Forces J2 Directorate in the 18 months prior to today's hearing. Tully's face goes through something that does not resolve into any single expression. The DIA Deputy Director has his phone out. That request, he says to Tully, will arrive through official channels by 1400 today. Compliance will be required. What exactly is this about? Tully manages. The Vice Admiral turns to him. He is very calm. He has the calm of a man who has been very angry for a long time and has learned to keep it at a specific temperature. 6 operators, he says, inserted into a valley in the Panjshir province. September 2017, they were extracted without their intelligence package. They were told the package was destroyed. It wasn't destroyed. It was diverted. He pauses. 3 of those operators are dead. The other 3 have been waiting 7 years for someone to follow the chain to this building. Tully says nothing. She has been following it, the Vice Admiral says, for 2 years. Without credit, without insignia, sitting quietly, waiting. The corridor behind him has people in it. Staff members and legal aides and Senate security and 2 Pentagon liaisons, and every last one of them is still. The committee will want, the DIA Deputy Director says, in the formal tone of a man dictating for the record, to cooperate fully with Commander Reeves's ongoing investigation. I would suggest retaining legal counsel before 1400. In the chamber later, with the morning's chaos settled into the specific institutional silence of consequences being processed, Kessler finds her in the corridor. He stands beside her. He doesn't say anything for a moment. They're both looking through a high window at the pale sky over the Capitol. Panjshir, he says. She looks at him. I submitted the inquiry, he says. In 2018, they told me it was a resource issue. He pauses. I stopped believing that in 2019. I know, she says. Your submission is part of what opened the channel. He is quiet for a moment. He turns and looks at her directly, the way he hasn't allowed himself to look at her all morning. And he sees what he already knew. Not because her file told him, not because the Vice Admiral named her, but because 37 years of knowing the difference between someone who was trained and someone who was made. She was made in some valley, some corridor, some sequence of missions that most people in this building have never heard of and never will. He raises his hand. His salute is not the crisp, formal arc of the Vice Admiral's. It is slower, older, the salute of a man who spent 37 years and 4 wars learning what it means to put your hand to your head for someone. It is chosen, not commanded. That is the difference. She returns it. The paperwork on Marsh comes through by 1400, she says when their hands are down. I'll be in the records office if you want to be useful. I've got nothing else today, Kessler says. She almost smiles. Not quite, but almost. By 1700, the Capitol is emptying in the slow, institutional way of government buildings in the evening. Senator Tully's office issued 2 statements and retained counsel. General Marsh departed the building at 1422 and was met by federal agents at his vehicle. 2 of the 4 names in the document she had been reading since 9 that morning have, by evening, been connected to asset transfers through a routing structure that the DIA will spend the next 6 months fully excavating. 2 names, not 3, not 4, 2. There is a name on the list she's been carrying, a code name, nothing more. A signal designation from a rooftop communication intercept in 2019 that does not match anything she found in today's documents. The signal came from someone in Damascus, someone who knew about the valley before the insertion was finalized, someone who is still operational, someone who is not in any file she has access to. She sits by a window at the end of a quiet hallway. The November sky outside has gone the color of old brass, the last light catching the dome across the way and turning it amber and gray. She checks her watch. 17:41. She writes the code name on a blank page of her notepad, looks at it, and circles it. Oracle 3. Somewhere, someone is still there. The mission is not finished. It was never going to be finished today. Justice isn't loud. It's patient. She closes the notepad. She picks up her bag. She walks toward the exit, through the long institutional corridor with its high windows and its smell of carpet and old wood. With her credential wallet in her inside pocket and a list with 2 names crossed off and 1 name still circled, into the cold November evening and whatever comes next. Every soldier carries a story that few ever hear. Listen with your heart. Thank you for staying and watching. Subscribe to MVP Stories for more.